Do you feel like you've been doing all the right things for your recovery but not seeing anything change? I've been there, and today I want to help you figure out why you're stuck in a healing rut and, more importantly, how to get out and stay out. I'm Rachel, mind, body, and EFT practitioner, and I help people who are stuck in their recovery release emotional and mental blocks for lasting healing. So, what is a healing rut? So, imagine you're running on a treadmill. You've set yourself a distance to run, and you're running, but the pedometer's not changing. And a healing rut feels like that. Despite doing all the things we've been told to do, nothing seems to be working. And so we start to feel stuck. There are a lot of reasons why people get stuck. Boredom, doing the same thing for too long, not believing that you can heal. It's a long list. But here are a few reasons that might surprise you. This is one of the biggest reasons I've seen clients get stuck. Healing's a bit like lying in bed trying to fall asleep. The more we focus on trying to fall asleep, the harder it gets. You feel tense, you watch the clock, and every minute feels longer. But when you let go, relax, and stop focusing on sleep, before you know it, you've fallen asleep. When you focus too much on reaching the final result of recovery, you're starting to invite in pressure along with emotions like disappointment and frustration. Now, the next reason I like to call healing creep, and this happens when you've been doing things that work, but as you start to feel better, you gradually do less of them without even really realizing it. And that brings me on to the opposite of healing creep, if it has an opposite. This is when you're doing the things that were getting you results, but alongside those good habits, some unhelpful habits have snuck into your routine. This could be staying up too late, doing too much internet research, doom scrolling, but these small things can sometimes really add up and stall recovery. Not quite as easy to see as the reasons I've just talked about, but this one can take a bit of digging to uncover because it's often completely unconscious. Towards the end of my recovery, I'd gotten back 80% of my energy. I was doing everything and feeling pretty great. I got stuck there until during my EFT training, I asked my partner to help me figure out why. Well, in that mini session, I had this light bulb moment, and the fatigue was helping me to avoid those difficult situations. And realizing this helped me get unstuck really quickly. This is a topic I cover in my group program, and some of the reasons people might unconsciously not want to heal might be to avoid responsibilities, avoid difficult conversations, for financial reasons, or to avoid returning to a stressful job or environment. These are things that can hold you back even if you're doing everything else right. It's worth reflecting on whether there's something you're unconsciously avoiding. So illness tends to strike when we're in a state of chronic stress, usually a combination of physical, environmental, and psychological stress. So if you've been focusing solely on physical factors like diet, supplements, and toxins, you might have really reached the point, but you're going to get diminishing returns by solely focusing on these areas. And it could be time to focus on emotional or psychological stress as well. Or you might have been doing a lot mind-body work for a long time and not attending to anything else. You might feel much calmer and your mindset's in the right place, and now your diet and other lifestyle aspects need attention. So now you've got a sense of why you might be stuck. How do you get unstuck? Well, one of the first things I'd be looking at if we were working together is whether you might be too invested in the outcome. Healing ruts are one of the main reasons people chop and change what they're doing so often. So when you're constantly focusing on the end goal, whether that's feeling fully recovered or being symptom-free, it's easy to get discouraged if you're not seeing the progress you expect. And this focus can lead to unnecessary pressure, disappointment, and even the urge to abandon what's actually working because you're frustrated that the big changes haven't happened yet. But sometimes the smallest adjustments rather than a complete overhaul can make the biggest difference. So before jumping onto the next new thing, I really encourage you to take a step back, take a deep breath, and evaluate what's actually going on. Look at your routine honestly. Do you have any healing creep? Do you have anything that you used to do that worked well that you're doing less of now? Are you doing nothing in your life except trying to heal? Have you got some bad habits that have crept in? Or are you doing things that you used to enjoy but don't like doing anymore? And so once you've assessed it, ask yourself, what is the smallest change I could make? So just to give you an example how this works, recently my sleep has really sucked. I'd gotten into some bad habits after we had a family member stay with us for a couple of days, and even changed the time we were eating in the evening. So I just wasn't waking up refreshed anymore. The thing is, I could have thought I needed a whole nighttime routine, but with a special needs guinea pig who currently requires feeding by syringe 3 times a day, when he feels like it, it really just wasn't going to happen. I was quite constrained. I had few options. So I really had to look at the smallest, easiest change I could make. And that was going to be going to bed by 10 p.m. And what I found is within 2 weeks, my sleep has improved a lot. So as you can see, small changes can make big differences. If what you're doing feels overwhelming, give yourself permission to pare it down. So you've got a routine that feels comfortable and easy to do. You might find a number of tweaks you can make, but just try starting with one. See how it goes and then bring in the next change. It's easier to see what's working and what isn't when you do it this way. The next thing is to look at your emotions. Ask yourself, are there emotions or past experiences I haven't dealt with? Is there something I'm not facing that's bothering me now? Sometimes things happen in our lives that we expect ourselves to cope with, but if you're trying to heal chronic illness, you'll have a lower resilience to stress. And so that makes stressful events that you might normally cope with much harder. They can have a bigger impact on your physiology than you realize. This is where I find self-compassion to be really powerful. The first step is acknowledging what's been happening and how it could be slowing or stalling your recovery. Additionally, if you've been doing the same thing for a long time and you've stalled, it's worth considering if there's another aspect that you need to look at. A client I worked with recently had been doing food and supplements for about 7 years and found that although she'd experienced a big improvement at the beginning, things had stalled for her and even started to go backwards. She decided to look at how her emotions were impacting her health. And what we found was that not only had past trauma put her in a state of constant fight or flight, but that she'd developed a lot of behaviours and beliefs that she'd adopted since she became ill, and these were keeping her health issues in place. So when she continued with her diet and supplements, but also addressed the mind-body aspects of her health condition, that's when she started to make a full recovery. Another reason we can feel like things are stalling or are in a rut is because we can forget the shifts in our mental and physical health that have already happened. Sometimes noticing and reflecting on these changes that we've already made can change our perspective to the point that we realize that there's nothing for us to do except to keep going. So if you need a reminder, this video takes you through some of the signs of healing that most people overlook. You might want to watch that next.